the thing, that's a very good question. So what we're trying to do is, this gets into the politics. Some people, the biggest problem, arguably, in the CA certificate authority infrastructure is the lack of exclusion. It's inclusive. So that goes back to the Komodo gate problem, because if you can get control of one of these trusted certificate authorities, you can issue certificates for any domain you want to, like Google and login.yahoo.com and Twitter and whatever. And then you can man in the middle all those people. So what everybody, including the certificate authorities, want to fix is the inclusion. They want to help make things exclusive. And one of the ways to do that is to publish something in DNS for a domain name that says only trust this certificate, this key, or only trust this CA, for example. And the certificate authorities think that's fine. And they wouldn't mind seeing that happen. So that's the current Dane protocol spec supports that notion. Other people are not as polite, and they want to see the certificate authority infrastructure just go away, because they believe that it's not helping anybody, and it's money, they're sucking money, and we're not getting any benefit for it, really. So they would like to see the records in the DNS and the evaluation algorithm designed such that you can completely bypass the certificate authorities and the trust anchor store and just get assurance of the key out of DNS. So you get exclusion, plus then you don't have to pay certificate authorities any money for certs. You just issue your own keys, stick them in the DNS, and it should work. And then you're basing security on DNSSEC and the DNS being secure, and your domain name registrar doing their job properly and not screwing you over. So basically you would be trusting your domain name registrar the same way you trust a certificate authority today. And you would have exclusion. So both people with both desires, with both agendas, are in the working group. And that's why it got a little heated at times, though it didn't get as heated as I thought it would get. It's been more heated on the discussion list. But how it's all going to work out in the end is still up in the air. It's still getting fought out on the discussion list. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Yes?
Sorry, but I need one step back in this. This keys in DNS is very interesting area. Maybe if we have time and you have some slides, it would be better to start again from beginning. But one question, if I understand it correctly, this is or can be new, better solution, but only for certificate for sites, not for users. That's my understanding.
Yes, yes, it's web app, it's keys.
If you have domain name or record in domain name system, you get also certificate and key.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what about users?
Good question. It's not addressing users. It's strictly addressing the web applications. User authentication that's a topic we missed because it's such a hard problem, and there's not any established work yet on it. There's people looking at the problem. There's some guys in Japan, for example, that have been chipping away at the problem very patiently for a number of years. And they were at IETF, and we had a side meeting with them. The key thing about authentication in our web-based world is that even if you have single sign-on that's desktop enabled, such that if you log into your system, then you're logged in, you're authenticated to use all the resources, let's say here at the university. Did you incorporate WebAuth that tightly? So if you do your Kerberos, right, authentication, then you can use the university websites and you're authenticated. So that's very cool. The problem is that you can still phish users. You can still send them an email that points them at a website that puts up a form to say, please insert your name and password here. And they'll do it. That,
We had this issue 2 weeks ago. So that was you?
well, it was just a little experiment. But that, so even if we've designed something new and better than form-based authentication for the web, and you have enterprise-level integrated authentication, which you guys have here and we had deployed at Stanford, you can still attack. That's all great, right? But you're not going to solve some of the big, huge security problems because there's this big user interface problem, and you can socially engineer people to do the wrong thing. And a key aspect is the fact that credentials are shared and reusable. So even in the Kerberos world, the password is a secret key and it's reusable. So once you get that, then you can impersonate that individual. So we need to, there's two aspects to the problem, which is the user interface problem. Can you train people not to inject their credentials into arbitrary forms that appear on the desktop? I don't know. And also, how do you enunciate, how do you display security problems effectively to people? Do you even do it? That's a huge area that I talked about earlier that needs a lot of work. And then can you get the people who develop the tools to adhere to standards? I don't know. The other thing underneath all this is, can we move away from reusable credentials? So at my wife's work, they have a proximity sensor. There's a thing that she wears with her badge. So when she walks into, she's a doctor, when she walks into the exam room, there's a machine on a swivel platform, and when she gets close to it, she's logged in. And when she leaves the exam room, it locks the screen. It doesn't log in, log out. It's Windows 2000 actually still. But it just locks the screen. So patients that are in the room can't mess around with the system. And then this badge is issued to her. It's probably RFID or near field communication. I'm not sure what the underlying technology is. Can we leverage that? The problem with things like that is they're scalable for an enterprise, but they're not necessarily scalable for the internet at large. So there's we're a lot further along, I think, in general on addressing enterprise level problems, and you can experiment more easily. The internet at large problem is enormous, and no one has any really good ideas on how to address it, or even what the whole problem space is. So there's lots of good work to do.
so my understanding is that you work very hard to the green color of our web browser. Nobody see this as an information.
Well, I mean, us geeks pay attention to it, but I mean, some of us, but yeah, the users at large, the user studies show that people who don't do this kind of stuff for a living, they have no understanding of what's going on, and they don't really care. So some people are thinking, and this has been suggested for a long time, is that you give warnings when things are insecure. In other words, you only interrupt the user's process if something bad can happen or is happening. Otherwise, you don't say anything, you don't enunciate. So like having these green colors saying it, or green, blue, saying it's okay, don't even do that. Don't bother. Keep things to a minimum. Don't try to give any extra information when things are secure. Things should be secure all the time. It's when things are insecure, then interrupt the user's process and get their attention.
But that was what was SSL strip about? No negative triggers. So it's just
Yeah. Don't even know it's there.
No padlock, no trigger. Here's
Yeah, I mean, people don't really pay attention to the padlock thing. Or, I mean, you can attackers put padlocks in right, you just favok on, put a padlock up there, oh, I'm safe. Yeah, that's the other aspect, is you can spoof your safe indicators and fool people into thinking they're safe. So let's get rid of the safe indicators. Majority of people don't look at them anyway, they don't understand them, and you can spoof them. So just make them all go away. We'll see. And that's one line of thinking. But then the browsers they don't like to do things alone necessarily. So it's hard. Sometimes they get adventurous, like Firefox with the content security policy, Microsoft with the X-frame options, and then they all follow each other. So they all scurry off to implement it. But doing major changes like this to how security indicators are done would be a big coordination issue. Any questions?
So I think we finished.
Sure. On a prepared talk.
Okay,
Do you want
thank
to?
you very much.